Hey there, friends. Hope you're doing well. My name's Zach, and I want to share a story with you. This happened back in September 2019 when four buddies, me, Shane, Matt, and Josh, planned a camping trip to Algonquin Provincial Park in Ontario. We were all in our mid-20s back then, fresh out of university, and looking for some adventure to break the monotony of city life in Toronto. Shane was the planner of the group, always organizing everything down to the last detail, from packing lists to itineraries. Matt was the adrenaline junkie, the one who thrived on thrills and never backed down from a challenge. Josh was more reserved, a bit of a worrier, but he had this intuitive side that often picked up on things the rest of us missed. And me, I was the easygoing one, just along for the ride, excited to escape the hustle and bustle. One of my friends, Josh, warned us that the area we were headed to had a bit of a creepy vibe. He'd read some online forums about strange occurrences in Algonquin, like unexplained disappearances and eerie sightings in the woods. He said we should just visit and head back, no camping. It was my first time there, so I didn't know much, but Shane and Matt were set on staying overnight and camping. They argued that the whole point was to immerse ourselves in nature, to rough it out under the stars. Matt's the fearless type, not easily rattled. He'd laugh off ghost stories and urban legends, calling them nonsense for the faint-hearted. Anyway, we decided we'd figure it out when we got there, but the plan was to camp. We spent the week leading up to the trip gathering supplies: tents, sleeping bags, food, flashlights, and even a portable stove for hot meals. We packed up and headed out in my red Ford Escape. The drive from Toronto was about 3 hours, filled with laughter, bad singing to old rock tunes on the radio, and stops for coffee and snacks. The highway gave way to winding roads lined with dense forests, the kind that make you feel small and insignificant. When we got to Algonquin, we had a blast hiking and exploring. The park was breathtaking, with its vast lakes, towering pines, and trails that seemed to stretch forever. We hiked along the Centennial Ridges Trail, taking in the panoramic views of the autumn foliage turning shades of red and gold. The air was crisp, filled with the scent of pine needles and earth. We spotted wildlife too, a moose in the distance, birds chirping overhead, and squirrels scampering about. By dusk, we started packing to leave, as there weren't many other campers around, just us and a couple of families in the distance. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that made the woods look even more mysterious. We figured we'd head back home. The idea of driving back in the dark wasn't appealing, but Josh's warnings were starting to linger in our minds. While packing, I noticed my backpack, which I'd left on the back seat, was missing. It was a small black bag, nothing fancy, but it held my essentials. I looked everywhere but couldn't find it. Under the seats, in the glove compartment, even outside the car, nothing. My friends said it was probably around, but their bags were there. Mine was gone. Shane joked that maybe a raccoon had snatched it, but I wasn't amused. I was sure I'd left it on the back seat with the others. The car doors had been locked while we hiked, so theft seemed unlikely. I searched the whole car, and when I checked the trunk, there it was, tucked neatly in the corner, as if placed there deliberately. I was confused. I hadn't put it there. None of us had opened the trunk since arriving. It was just a small bag with stuff like my toothbrush, deodorant, and snacks. How it ended up in the trunk was a mystery. A chill ran down my spine, but I brushed it off as forgetfulness on my part. I told the guys we should get going. The light was fading fast, and the temperature was dropping. Matt offered to drive, saying I looked tired. His eyes scanned my face with concern, but I insisted I was fine. But when we tried to start the car, it wouldn't turn over. The engine clicked weakly, then nothing. We'd driven from Toronto in perfect condition, even checked the tires before leaving. Oil levels were good, battery was new, just 6 months old. Yet, the car was dead. No lights on the dashboard, no response at all. Stuck, we had no choice but to set up camp for the night. Cell service was spotty, and calling for help would mean waiting hours in the dark. I didn't know much about the area, so my friends handled the setup. Shane and Matt pitched the tent efficiently, while Josh gathered firewood for a small campfire. We got the tent ready and sat around, wondering what to do next. The tent was a 4-person dome, spacious enough for us to spread out. We were pretty much alone except for one family camping far off. Their campfire flickered like a distant beacon, voices carrying faintly on the wind. We kept our distance since they were with kids. No need to intrude or alarm them with our predicament. Our tent was decent-sized, and we were chilling, munching on chips and granola bars. The salty crunch of the chips echoed in the quiet night. We agreed to leave as soon as the sun came up. First light would bring clarity, and perhaps the car would start after resting. Shane and Josh were pretty spooked, but I was on the fence. Scared if I saw something, fine if I didn't. The backpack incident nagged at me, but I pushed it aside. Matt, the brave one, started joking about creepy stuff, saying, "We're out here in the middle of nowhere. Who knows what's lurking? A bear, a wolf, or maybe something else?" He wiggled his fingers dramatically, mimicking a ghost. That freaked out Shane and Josh, who begged him to stop. Their faces paled in the lantern light, eyes wide with unease. I told them I wasn't the one stirring things up. It was Matt. He just laughed. His deep chuckle echoed slightly, but it didn't ease the tension. I need to mention something heavy. Josh didn't make it through this trip. It's a memory that haunts the three of us. We haven't gone on another group trip since. The bond we shared feels fractured, like a piece is forever missing. The rest of us are okay, thank God, but Josh's passing was complicated. We're not sure if it was the accident or something else. Doctors cited internal injuries, but whispers of something unnatural linger in our minds. About 5 minutes after Matt's comments, we heard something move outside the tent. A rustle of leaves, soft but deliberate. I was lying down, Matt was sitting across from me, and Josh and Shane were on the other side. The tent fabric glowed faintly from our lantern. We were playing cards, Uno to be exact. The colorful cards were a welcome distraction. It was Josh's turn when he whispered, "Something just moved behind you." His voice trembled, barely above a breath. I told him he was just scared, but he swore he saw a shadow, a dark silhouette passing along the tent wall. I said it might have been a park ranger checking on us. They patrol at night, right? To ensure safety. Matt said he'd check, unzipped the tent, and looked outside. The zipper sounded unnaturally loud in the silence. It was around 11 or 11:30 p.m. The moon was half full, casting silvery light on the trees. We'd eaten, rested, and even cooked some instant noodles as we were prepared to stay if needed. The savory broth had warmed us earlier. Matt came back and said there was nothing out there, just empty woods and stillness. Josh insisted he saw something. His eyes darted nervously, hands fidgeting with the cards. You know how it is when you're sure you saw something. It sticks with you, like an itch you can't scratch. A bit later, Shane said he felt like something was pacing outside. Slow, measured steps circling the tent. I suggested we all step out for a few minutes to check. Safety in numbers, I reasoned. Outside, it was pitch black, just stars above. The Milky Way stretched across the sky like a river of diamonds. Algonquin's known for its deep darkness. No light pollution to spoil the view. We stood there, a bit uneasy, hearing faint voices from the other family's campsite far away. Laughter and murmurs, normal and reassuring. I said it was freezing and we should head back in. The cold bit through our jackets, breath visible in clouds. Matt agreed, saying it was probably just nerves. Our imaginations running wild after a long day. Back in the tent, I sat near the edge. The ground was hard beneath the sleeping pad. Then I felt something brush against the tent, like a hand running over it. Light pressure tracing the fabric. I knew something wasn't right. My heart pounded, adrenaline surging. We stepped out again and saw a figure standing between our tent and the other campsite. It looked like a person, maybe a woman, just standing there, staring. Long hair, pale dress fluttering slightly, but no wind. We all saw it. The figure didn't move, just watched us with unseen eyes. We didn't say a word to each other. Fear gripped us like a vice. We just said, "Pack up, check the car, and let's go." Voices hushed, urgent. If it started, we'd leave immediately. We'd call a tow truck in the morning if needed. From a safe distance, away from this place. Josh was freaking out, urging us to leave. His hands shook as he stuffed gear into bags. The car, which wouldn't start before, fired up after we said a prayer. A quick, desperate plea for protection. We thanked God, feeling it was a miracle. The engine roared to life, headlights piercing the dark. Some of us thought about staying, thinking the car issue was a fluke, but it worked, so we packed up in half an hour and hit the road, tearing down the tent frantically, throwing items into the car. We told the park staff what happened, and they said it was probably our imagination. A bored ranger at the gate, dismissing us with a yawn. We paid our fees and left around 12:30 a.m. The road out felt endless, trees closing in like sentinels. On the way back, the car's horn stopped working, though it was fine earlier. Matt tested it at a stop, but no sound. Matt, who was driving, noticed it. His grip tightened on the wheel. I told him to focus on driving safely. The road was narrow, twists and turns demanding attention. As we drove, we heard noises from the trunk, like something shifting. Thumps and scrapes, rhythmic. I'd taken my small bag out, so it shouldn't have been anything heavy. Just camping gear, secured. I told Matt to ignore it and keep his eyes on the road, but the sounds persisted, unnerving. Then the hazard lights turned on by themselves, flashing orange, unbidden. I was right next to Matt and saw he didn't touch the switch. His hands were steady on the wheel. Josh asked what was wrong with the car, but I had no clue. It was fine when we left Toronto. Mechanically sound, recently serviced. Matt turned off the hazards, but they came back on 10 to 15 minutes later. Stubborn, insistent. We were stumped. No Ford we knew did that. Electrical glitch or something more sinister. Before we reached Highway 60, Shane and Josh fell asleep in the back, exhaustion claiming them, heads lolling. Suddenly, Josh screamed, waking us up, a blood-curdling yell, full of terror. He said someone touched his hair and tried to choke him, swearing someone was sitting between them, invisible hands cold and gripping. Matt, annoyed, said he was focused on driving and saw nothing. The rearview mirror showed only empty seats. I was spooked but told Josh to calm down as he'd been the one panicking earlier. Breathe deep, it's just a nightmare. We said we were almost at the highway. Civilization beckoned, lights and safety. Then the right headlight went out and an animal, maybe a coyote or wolf, darted in front of the car. Yellow eyes gleaming in the remaining beam. We all saw it come out of the dark, a shadowy blur, too fast. The car hit it and flipped. Tires screeching, metal crunching, world tumbling. We were in rough shape, glass shattering, airbags deploying with a bang. A few cars were behind us, far off, and it took them 10 to 15 minutes to reach us. Headlights approaching slowly, good Samaritans. They called 911, and everything went black. Sirens in the distance, fading consciousness. I came to after 6 weeks, barely able to eat or talk. Hospital room sterile, beeps and monitors. One friend survived with neck and shoulder injuries, but Josh didn't make it. Shane had broken bones, Matt concussion and fractures. Something hit him internally and he couldn't recover. Vital organs damaged beyond repair. Matt later said when the animal appeared, he tried to swerve, but the steering locked, like someone was holding it. An unseen force resisting. He's still shaken years later. Therapy sessions, nightmares recurring. That's my story. The events of that night changed us forever, a shadow over our lives. We've tried to move on, but the memories linger, whispering in the quiet moments. Algonquin's beauty hides darkness, a warning to those who venture too deep. If you ever plan a trip there, heed the signs. Sometimes the woods don't want you to stay. Let's move to the next one. Hey friends, hope you're doing well. May God keep you safe. I'm James from Toronto, originally from Kitchener. I've been following your stories for a year and wanted to share mine. It's one of those tales that still sends chills down my spine whenever I think about it. The kind that makes you question what's real and what's lurking just beyond the shadows. I've been in Alberta for 8 years, working as an HVAC technician. The job keeps me busy, fixing heating systems in the brutal winters and air conditioners in the short, sweltering summers. But this story isn't about my work. It's about a night that changed how I look at empty roads and strangers in the dark. This happened on a highway between Calgary and Edmonton near some fancy estates. I won't name the spot, not because I'm afraid, but because some places hold on to their secrets like ghosts cling to the living. Those estates are sprawling mansions hidden behind wrought iron gates, surrounded by dense forests that whisper when the wind blows. The highway cuts through like a vein, dark and desolate after sunset. A year ago, I was heading to Toronto for a break. I needed it badly. Work had been relentless, and the isolation of Alberta was wearing on me. Memories of Toronto's bustling streets called me home. But before leaving, I went shopping in Calgary and got delayed. Heading back around 10:30 p.m. The malls had closed, but I lingered in a late-night store, picking up souvenirs for family. By the time I stepped out, the city lights faded behind me. It's tough to get a cab out there at night, so I was waiting for a ride. Standing on the shoulder of the highway, thumb out, feeling the cold creep in. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and distant rain. Cars zoomed by, their headlights slicing through the blackness like knives. Each one that passed without stopping made my heart sink a little deeper. I checked my phone. No signal, of course. Just me, the endless road, and the stars overhead, indifferent witnesses. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. The wind picked up, rustling the trees lining the highway. I swear I heard something in the underbrush, a snap of twigs, like footsteps too light to be human. I shook it off, blaming my imagination. But out there, alone, every shadow seems alive. Finally, headlights approached slower than the others. A van pulled over, its engine rumbling like a low growl. A guy from Red Deer stopped and asked where I was going. His face was illuminated by the dashboard glow, middle-aged, with a scruffy beard and tired eyes. He leaned over, window cracked just enough to talk. "Need a lift?" he said, voice gravelly from years of smoking or shouting over engines. I said I needed to get to my place near the estates. It wasn't far, but walking in the dark wasn't an option. The estates were about 25 kilometers away, through twisting roads that felt longer at night. He offered to drop me off. I hesitated for a split second. Stranger danger, right? But desperation won out. I climbed into the passenger seat, the van smelling of oil and old coffee. We drove about 25 kilometers. The highway unfurled before us, empty except for the occasional semi-truck thundering past. He drove steadily, but the silence between us grew thick, almost oppressive. To break it, he asked who lives out there, and I said it's mostly big properties, not regular folks. Mansions owned by oil barons or reclusive millionaires, places where lights flicker in windows like watchful eyes. The kind of homes that look beautiful by day but eerie after dark, as if they hold grudges against intruders. He nodded slowly, gripping the wheel tighter. Then, with a glance in the rearview mirror, at nothing, it seemed, he told me about a night when a guy flagged him down for a ride. His voice dropped lower, like he was sharing a forbidden secret. "It happened a few months back," he said. Similar night, cold, moonless. He was driving home from a late shift when he saw a figure on the roadside, tall, dressed in outdated clothes, like something from decades ago. The man was polite and sat in the back of his van. Didn't say much at first, just thanked him softly and settled in. But as they drove, the van felt heavier, like an invisible weight pressed down on the suspension. The engine strained, tires hugging the road harder. He chalked it up to fatigue, but deep down, unease stirred. The passenger asked odd questions about the year, the changes in the area. His voice was calm, too calm, echoing slightly in the confined space. They passed the estates, the gates looming like skeletal fingers. The road narrowed, trees closing in, branches scratching at the windows like claws. When they reached a dead-end road, he turned to ask where to stop, but the guy was gone, vanished without a trace. No door opened, no sound of movement, just an empty seat, still warm to the touch. He was stunned. The man had just been there and vanished. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he recounted it. He pulled over that night, heart pounding, searching the van frantically. Nothing. Not even a footprint in the dust. The air inside felt colder, charged with something unnatural. He drove home shaking, glancing back every few seconds. Since then, he avoided that stretch after dark. Locals whispered about it, a hitchhiker ghost doomed to roam. Some said he was a victim of a long-ago accident, car plunging off the road. Others claimed he was a wanderer, cursed for some forgotten sin. Either way, he appeared to the unwary, seeking passage he could never complete. As he spoke, the van's interior seemed to dim. The dashboard lights flickered faintly. I shifted in my seat, a chill crawling up my spine. Outside, the estates blurred by, their windows dark voids. I told him I've lived here a while and got delayed shopping. My voice sounded forced, trying to steer away from the dread building inside. But his story clung to me like fog on glass. We drove on, the highway curving into deeper wilderness. Suddenly a fog rolled in, thick, unnatural for the clear night. It swallowed the road ahead, headlights barely piercing it. He slowed down, muttering under his breath. "Do you feel that?" The van felt heavier now, just like in his tale. My heart raced. Was it imagination or something more? I glanced back, empty seats, but shadows danced unnervingly. A soft whisper, or just the wind? The estates faded behind us. He gripped the wheel, knuckles white. "I've heard others saw him too," he continued, voice hushed. "One driver said the ghost left a coin, old from the 1950s. Another felt hands on his shoulders, cold as ice." The fog thickened, wrapping us like a shroud. Then, a figure appeared in the mist, fleeting on the roadside, tall just like he described. We passed it, but my blood ran cold. Was it real, or a trick of the light? He didn't seem to notice, lost in his recounting. The dead end approached, my drop-off point. He pulled over, engine idling. I thanked him quickly, stepping out into the chill. The fog lifted slightly as I walked away. Glancing back, the van's taillights receded. But for a moment, I swore I saw a silhouette in the back seat, watching. That's my story, the one that keeps me up at night, wondering if the hitchhiker chose me next. I hope you share it on your channel. I'm a big fan and have been meaning to share this but never had the time. Thanks for listening. Now let me delve deeper, because that night didn't end there. Walking to my place, the estates loomed larger. Gates creaked in the wind, though no breeze stirred. My footsteps echoed unnaturally loud. Shadows stretched long, twisting into shapes that mimicked human forms. I quickened my pace, heart thumping. The driver's words replayed, vanished, heavier, cold hands. Was it all coincidence, or had I invited something in by listening? My home, a modest cabin amid the grandeur, finally appeared, but the door was ajar. I never left it open. Pushing inside, the air felt stale, heavy. A chill lingered, like someone had just left. On the table, a coin. Old, tarnished, dated 1952. My blood froze. How? I hadn't been home all day. That night, sleep evaded me. Every creak, every whisper of wind sounded like footsteps. The next morning, I researched. Local legends spoke of the vanishing rider. A man killed in a 1950s crash, hitchhiking eternally. Drivers who picked him up reported accidents, misfortunes. Some never made it home. I burned the coin, buried the ashes, but the unease remains. Nights on that highway, I drive with lights on, radio blaring, praying he doesn't flag me down. Friends, beware the roads at night. Some passengers never leave. They ride with you forever. In the weeks that followed, the spookiness didn't fade. I'd wake to knocks at the door, no one there. Mirrors fogged with breath not my own. Colleagues noticed my jumpiness. "You look like you've seen a ghost," one joked, if only he knew. I confided in a local elder, versed in folklore. He nodded gravely. "The rider seeks resolution," he said. "Unfinished business, a message undelivered." What message? To warn or to curse? I avoided the highway when possible, but work demanded travel. One stormy evening, forced to drive back. Rain lashed the windshield, wipers struggling. Lightning illuminated the road. There he was, standing, thumb out. I sped past, pulse racing, but in the rear view he sat in my back seat, smiling faintly. I swerved, nearly crashing, blinked, he was gone. Only a wet spot on the upholstery, cold to the touch. Since then, I've moved closer to the city, but echoes persist. Whispers in the vents I fix, shadows in corners. The rider follows, patient, waiting for his ride to end or mine to begin. That's the full tale, friends, expanded from that fateful night. May it chill you as it does me. Stay safe out there. God bless. My name is Matteo and I'm from Orvieto, a small hilltop town in Umbria, Italy, where the Paglia River winds through the valley below. I'm 20 years old and I work in the kitchen of a family-run trattoria called La Pergola, tucked into one of Orvieto's cobbled side streets. The trattoria is a lively place, always filled with the clatter of plates, the hum of conversation, and the scent of fresh basil and simmering ragu. I've been there for 2 years, ever since I finished school, learning the art of making pasta by hand and perfecting the balance of a good tiramisu. It's hard work, but I love it. The rhythm of the kitchen, the way food brings people together, and the stories customers share over a glass of Montefalco Rosso. Speaking of stories, I've always enjoyed yours, those tales that weave mystery and wonder into the everyday. I have one of my own to share now, something that happened last year during Lent, and I hope you'll find it worth telling. It's a story that still lingers in my mind, like a dream I can't quite shake. If you like it, please share it with others and maybe say a prayer for me. Here's what happened. It was a chilly March night, right in the middle of Lent, when the town felt quieter than usual. Orvieto slows down during this season with fewer tourists and a somber air as people observe the fast. The trattoria was still busy though, serving simple dishes like lentil soup and bacala to honor the season's traditions. Around 11:45 p.m., just as we were winding down, an order came in through our delivery app. It was a small one, 2 plates of spaghetti aglio e olio and a side of roasted vegetables. The address was unfamiliar, a place called Lago di Bolsena, not the actual lake, but a rural hamlet on the outskirts of town. I'd never been there before, and the name didn't ring any bells. Normally, we had a driver for late-night deliveries, but that night, Luca, our usual guy, had gone home early with a cold. When no driver's available, I step in. It's not unusual for me to hop on my Vespa and make a quick run, especially for a loyal customer. So, I packed the food into the insulated delivery bag, strapped on my helmet, and headed out. The streets of Orvieto were nearly deserted as I rode down from the town's medieval center. The glow of streetlights reflected off the damp cobblestones, and the air carried the faint smell of wood smoke. I followed Google Maps, which directed me out of town, past the ancient walls and into the countryside. The road stretched out, flanked by endless rows of vineyards, their gnarled vines bare under the late winter moon. Houses became scarce, replaced by open fields and the occasional silhouette of a farmhouse. The night was quiet, save for the hum of my Vespa's engine and the rustle of wind through the olive groves. I wasn't too worried, though. I've always found comfort in prayer, and as I rode, I murmured a quiet Ave Maria under my breath, the familiar words steadying my nerves. It's something my Nana taught me. Pray when you're alone, and you'll never feel lost. Still, I couldn't shake a slight unease. I'm terrified of dogs, you see, ever since I was a kid and a neighbor's hound chased me down the street. Their barking always sets my heart racing, and out here, in the middle of nowhere, the thought of a stray dog lurking in the dark made me grip the handlebars a little tighter. As I got closer to the destination, the road narrowed, turning into a winding path barely wide enough for a car. Google Maps said I was almost there, so I kept going, the headlights of my Vespa cutting through the darkness. In the distance I heard it, a low, guttural barking, faint but unmistakable. My stomach twisted. I told myself it was probably just a farm dog, safely behind a fence, but the sound echoed in my head, making the night feel heavier. I focused on the delivery, eager to drop off the food and get back to the trattoria. Finally, I reached the address, a small stone house with a single light glowing in the window. An older woman answered the door, her face kind but tired. She thanked me profusely, pressing a few extra euros into my hand as a tip. I smiled, wished her a good night, and turned back to my Vespa, relieved the delivery was done. I started the engine, the familiar buzz calming my nerves, but that barking sounded again, closer this time. I didn't want to risk running into a dog on the same route back, so I pulled out my phone to check Google Maps for an alternate path. The app suggested a different road that looped around the hamlet and connected to the main highway. It looked straightforward, so I decided to take it. No one was around to ask for directions, and I figured the app knew better than I did. I rode slowly, the cold air biting at my knuckles as I followed the new route. The vineyards stretched out endlessly, their rows like dark waves under the moonlight. I was so focused on avoiding dogs that I missed a turn, going straight instead of veering left. It took me a moment to realize my mistake. The road ahead was unpaved, just a dirt track cutting through a field. I stopped the Vespa, my heart thudding. The headlight flickered, then dimmed, casting a weak glow that barely reached the ground in front of me. I tapped the handlebars, hoping it was just a loose connection, but the light stayed faint. Without it, the darkness was suffocating, like a thick blanket swallowing everything around me. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. The barking had stopped, but the silence was worse somehow, heavy and unnatural. I glanced at my phone, but the signal was weak, and Google Maps was frozen, the little blue dot stuck in the middle of nowhere. I felt a prickle of fear, the kind that makes your skin crawl. I'm not usually one to panic, but being alone on a dark road, far from home, with a dying headlight and no clear way back, was enough to shake anyone. I muttered another prayer, asking for guidance, and decided to turn around. As I swung the Vespa around, the weak headlight caught something, a figure standing a few meters away, just off the path. My breath caught in my throat. I hadn't seen anyone when I stopped, and I hadn't heard footsteps or the crunch of gravel. But there he was, a man standing still, his outline barely visible in the dim light. At first I froze, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios, but then relief washed over me. Another person meant I wasn't alone out here. Maybe he was a farmer, or someone taking a late-night walk. I hesitated, unsure if I should approach, but the need for directions outweighed my caution. I turned the Vespa toward him, the engine idling softly, and called out, "Ciao!" My voice sounded too loud in the quiet night. He didn't move, but I could feel his eyes on me, steady and unblinking. I swallowed my nerves and explained, "I'm lost. I was delivering food and took a wrong turn. Do you know the way back to the main road?" He listened silently, his face half hidden in the shadows. After a pause that felt too long, he spoke, his voice low and calm, almost soothing. "You're in the wrong place," he said. "Keep going, and you'll see a chapel ahead. Follow the path past it, and it'll take you to the highway." His words were clear, but there was something odd about the way he looked at me, like he was seeing through me rather than at me. I squinted into the darkness, trying to make out his features, but the weak headlight didn't help. I could only see the vague shape of his face, framed by a dark coat or jacket. "Is there really a chapel out here?" I asked, doubtful. The area looked too remote for anything like that, and I hadn't seen any signs of one on my way. He nodded slowly, his gaze unwavering. "It's there," he said simply. "Go." I thanked him, but he didn't respond, just stood there, motionless. Unsettled but desperate to get moving, I revved the Vespa and started down the path he'd indicated. I glanced back once, expecting to see him still standing there, but the darkness had swallowed him completely. It was as if he'd never been there at all. I rode slowly, the dirt track rough under my tires. My headlight flickered again, but it held just enough to light the way. I kept my eyes peeled for the chapel, half expecting it to be a figment of my imagination. But then, maybe 10 minutes later, I saw it. A small stone building with a simple cross on top, nestled between two olive trees. It was exactly where he'd said it would be. The sight of it sent a chill down my spine, not out of fear, but awe. How had he known? I didn't stop to investigate, I just kept going, following the path as it widened and eventually merged with the main highway. The familiar glow of streetlights greeted me, and the tension in my chest finally eased. I was safe. When I got back to the trattoria, it was well past midnight. The kitchen was quiet, with only a few staff members cleaning up. I parked my Vespa and went inside, still shaken by the encounter. I couldn't stop thinking about the man, his calm voice, his strange stare, the way he seemed to appear out of nowhere. I tried to picture his face, but it was blurry in my mind, like a photo out of focus. I could remember the words he said, the shape of his coat, but his features slipped away every time I tried to recall them. It was unsettling, like I hadn't really seen him at all. The next day, I told my friends at the trattoria about it. We were prepping for lunch service, chopping onions and rolling out dough, when I recounted the story. They listened wide-eyed, especially Sophia, our waitress, who's always been into local legends and mysteries. "Maybe it was an angel," she said, half serious, her knife pausing mid-chop. "Lent is a holy time, and you were praying, weren't you? Maybe someone was watching over you." The others nodded, some joking about ghosts, others suggesting it was just a kind stranger. But Sophia's words stuck with me. An angel? It sounded far-fetched, but I couldn't explain the chapel, or the way he'd known exactly where I needed to go. I'd never believed in that sort of thing before, but now I wasn't so sure. Over the next few weeks, I tried to make sense of it. I even rode back to Lago di Bolsena during the day, hoping to find the chapel again. I found it, just as small and unassuming as I remembered, but there was no sign of the dirt track or the spot where I'd seen the man. It was like the path had vanished, or maybe I'd imagined it. I asked around town, describing the man to some of the older locals, but no one recognized him. "He sounds like one of the old shepherds," one woman said, but she couldn't be sure. Orvieto is full of stories, tales of saints, spirits, and miracles tied to the land. Maybe my story was just another one to add to the collection. Looking back, I don't know who or what he was, a stranger with a knack for directions, a guardian angel sent to guide me, or just a trick of my tired, nervous mind. All I know is that I was lost, scared, and alone, and somehow I found my way home. The memory of that night still gives me goosebumps, but it also brings me a strange kind of comfort. It's like a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there's something or someone watching out for you. I still pray before every delivery, just in case, and I still avoid dogs. So that's my story. I hope you liked it, and if you did, please share it with others. Maybe it'll remind someone else to keep faith when they're lost in the dark. And if you have a moment, say a prayer for me, Matteo from Orvieto, still delivering food and hoping to avoid barking dogs. Thanks for listening.